To be honest, is this the pod going up? To be honest, sit down, we need to have a talk. Cornelius gon' make a point that the others don't. Them other shows sound the same, come escape the box. Expand your mind, dig into no controversial topics. He ain't scared to keep it real. Tune into this podcast, but don't be in your feelings. We gon' have a laugh, we gon' talk about some pain. Let's talk about the present situation of today. To be honest, is this the podcast? I need to tune it right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of To Be Honest. This is your boy Cornelius, Lindsey, and I am super excited to be sitting here with the one and the only, the president, owner, operator of Innovations of Excellence. We're going to be talking about that.
Yes.
And so I'm really excited about that. Porscha Outen, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
No problem. Thank you, Cornelius. I appreciate this. This is really nice.
Well, good. I'm glad. And I appreciate you even doing this. I wanted to ask you this, and while I want to have a very honest discussion on mass media, public relations, all those things. I think the first question that I have for you is in a booming technical world, what relevance does public relations still play in our society today?
So first, public relations is hybrid now. So it's the
You
way
gotta explain that.
So the way that you want to think about it is not just press, right? It's a lot with social as well. So that incorporates into tech very heavily. So it kind of all circles around. But public relations really is the management of your relationship with the members of the media and also your stakeholders. So all of those things kind of go together.
So for the average person that's sitting out there who is, I don't call them average person, for the person who's out there, they say, I want to be an influencer. I want followers. You know, it's a big thing now.
It is.
Everybody want to be famous, and they want to, so they want followers, they want influencers, they want all that stuff. So for that person who's saying, I want all of that, I want the spotlight, you being in this industry for years, and you being an expert in this field, what would you say to them? Like what cautions would you give them before they actually get it? And then for those who have it now, what are some of the things that you would say that they really need to protect themselves right now?
Wow. So that's definitely loaded. And I appreciate you asking that question because a lot of people, when they get into the influencer scene, they don't necessarily take into account the management piece of it. They just want the attention, right? Or they just want the fame, but they don't really think about how to maintain what they get. So a large part of what we do is making sure that we're managing what we're getting and also protecting the client, because sometimes they go too far too fast and they don't really know how to pull back.
Oh, what do you mean by that? When you say they go too far too fast, you're referring to the influencer.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So the growth sometimes can be a hindrance. Especially within the social media market, right? Like you get out there, you go viral, and then all of a sudden things are happening and you're not really sure how to manage the things that are happening. And so then you start to chase that high of the next. So what is my next big thing? What is my next viral video? And a lot of what we do is try to employ strategy behind the PR piece. So we're going to go after the opportunity, which is amazing. You always want to make sure you're going after the opportunity, but when you're going after the opportunity, then what? How are you going to make sure that you're utilizing that in a way that is not only effective, but also safe for the person? So a lot of what we do is managing the person that's behind the brand.
Managing the person that's behind the brand. So, I mean, based on what you're saying, there is a separation between the two.
Absolutely.
I don't think people recognize that.
Yes.
Because the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of how the influencer is taught is that you build a brand that basically surrounds your persona. So if there's a separation, like to protect the person behind the brand, how can I protect the person when the brand itself is built on the foundation of that person's persona?
So I think a lot of that is a misconception.
Okay.
Because the brand is not built on the person per se. It's built between the separation of the two. So really the nuances between what makes that person and what makes that brand is kind of that sweet spot. And that's where you have to get in there and make sure that you're managing that piece of it. Like I like to call that the nucleus. So for example, if you are, let's say you are an influencer or you are a public speaker, right? And then your brand has the speaking piece, the book sales, the merch, all of those things, right? But then you have that relationship piece that's in the middle of there. That's the piece that needs the protecting. So it's not necessarily just the persona or the person or the things that persona is producing. It really is that relationship piece that's in the middle of that. And that's where we get in there and we find out more about the person. What is it that you like? What are your triggers? What are some of the things that, make you who you are? And then we manage those things effectively.
Ooh, jeez. And I know that can be a tiring thing, especially when you're trying to manage a person outside of a brand, because I'm quite confident people can be oftentimes unmanageable.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say unmanageable, but what I will say is that certain things need to be protected. So as you know, things go in riders, right? So the client will say, I want, blue M&Ms. And a lot of people think that they're being difficult, but really it's not. That's the thing that calms them. That's the thing that makes them feel safe and comfortable. So a part of what we do is managing, again, the person. So it's not just about securing the PR. It's not just about pushing the person out there. It's about managing that piece of it, the actual whole person. I think that's a lot of where people misconstrue the pull and the ability of a public relations representative. They think that it's just about kind of push, but really the good stuff is in that story. If you care for the person, then the person is able to care for those around them. Most public figures have a team, right? They have, maybe 5 or 6 people that they're caring for. And if they're not their best selves and they don't have the best team around them, they're not going to produce and give us the output and the quality that we need. So it's really a lot. And people, they want to know, like, it's glitz and glam. It looks glamorous to be a publicist, right? But it's really a lot of heart care. It's a lot of internal care for the client.
Jesus. So to really care for the person that you seek to protect.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, because it's our job to manage it, because the client can't see it all. There's no way that they can be all eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of taking a turn here, we're in cancel culture. We're in the cancel culture world, where, where we talk about, and I want to bring back up what you're talking about, the responsibility piece, the responsibility of the influencer, of the speaker, that now I've said something that has upset someone. I have done something that has upset someone. And because of that, now that, now there becomes a ruckus and now something begins to happen. I don't think a lot of influencer speakers and stuff like that really anticipated this type of environment. So because we live in this type of ecosystem now, what are some of those safeguards that when you have people who are coming after you? I mean, I've gone through that. You know it. We've gone through that. But when you live in that ecosystem and you have people who are coming after you to cancel you, what are some of those things that these influencers, speakers, authors, whatever it is, they need to know to safeguard themselves? So
the first thing, when you are a public figure, everything you say is going to resonate, and it just depends on what side of the aisle it's going to fall.
Jesus. I'm sorry. It's just that when you said it just touched a different side, but go ahead. Well, I'll get an offering later on.
Oh my goodness. But that is very true. So I think a lot of times people try to control what they're saying and they tailor that to their audience, when really it's not about what you're saying. It's about the timing of what you're saying and how you're going to say it. So it's not necessarily wrong that thought is there. It's just about how are you presenting that information and in what time frame are you positioning that. So I would say, to answer your question, a lot of things you can think about before you make a statement is not necessarily what am I saying, it's who am I saying it to and when am I going to say it.
See, That's going to take some thinking, though.
Exactly.
That's going to take some thinking.
Exactly.
And you know, when you think about most influencers and people who are social media and stuff like that, it's not about thinking.
They don't know.
We live in an emotionally charged ecosystem. Like our ecosystem is cancel culture, is emotionally charged. I mean, our emotions are everywhere. You go on social media right now, somebody's mad about something.
Yeah.
Twitter is a cesspool of anger.
Yeah.
Like, so because we are emotionally charged, we say things.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, take the Kirk Franklin situation.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So that was the situation.
Okay.
And he came out and he made a statement.
Mm-hmm.
And that statement was in response to something that was presented.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what he chose to do was make the statement, but he said it from a posture and a position of, I understand, I recognize, I empathize, and this is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. That was a perfectly crafted statement, the way that he went about it, because it's also, again, not about what you're saying per se, especially if it's an accusation that comes and something happens, right? And something comes out and you have to then respond to that. The first choice is A, am I going to respond?
Right. Whether
it's worth the response or not. And then B, when am I going to say what I'm going to say? Because if you noticed, I think there was about a 24-hour to 48-hour hold before he actually said anything.
Right.
So timing is really, really important. So a lot of what you said, that immediate cancel culture. And I don't believe that was a canceling situation because of the way that he presented his response. Had he presented the response in a way that was defensive and didn't take ownership, that would have, then of course evoked the emotions of the public. And then it probably would have went a different way. So a lot of the thought process is not just what you're going to say. It's when you're going to say it and who are you attempting to communicate to. He chose not to communicate to the person. Mm-hmm. He chose to communicate to his audience. Mm-hmm. Everything that he said was directed to the people who he felt would be the most impacted by his actions. And so that really comes with a lot of thought and a lot of strategy. And it does take a little bit more time to process through things. So we always say, hold off. We don't need to say anything right away. First of all, let's verify if whether what was presented was factual or not. Because if it's not factual, then obviously there's a specific way to go about that. But if it is, let's just say it is. Let's say it's true. Mm-hmm. This big salacious thing is true. How do you take ownership of that without alienating your base? Right. And there's a very strategic way to be able to do that, which is a part of public relations.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know any of this stuff, even the strategy that goes behind when to say what you're going to say or how you're going to say what you're going to say. I like what you said earlier. You said, because there are some things that may not need to be said.
Absolutely.
Depending on what it is. It's
Absolutely.
like, I don't need to respond to that. I think a lot of times the public, they assume, and you I'm going to need your professional advice on this, because a lot of times, Porscha, the public will say, you owe me a response.
Well, okay. So
come on. I need for you to speak something.
Okay. So
speak a word.
So the fact of the matter is that you do.
You do owe them a response.
You do owe them a response.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But you choose though what the response is.
I got you. So I love that.
Is your response silence? Mm-hmm. Because even in that's still a response. But I do feel like you do owe the people something. Either you're going to say something or you're going to say nothing. But either of those things, you're still talking.
That's a response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's up to us to figure out
which one you're going to give the people.
Mm-hmm. And when.
Mm-hmm. Is there, or when is there or how do you decide how long you should wait before you give the response? Is it dependent upon each and every situation?
I would say yes, you should wait. It's always good to wait a beat. Mm-hmm. And we always, my team anyhow, we always wait for verification. Mm-hmm. Whether that's from the client or the outside entity, we always wait for a verification, because sometimes people say things, blogs, people they say whatever they think makes sense. Yeah. So sometimes all the pieces are there. Sometimes all the pieces are not there. And it really just depends on, So I'll say this, it depends on how many things are factual.
Right. Right. So I remember when people were coming after us, and it was like, we had to look at it and say, okay, what in this is factual? What in this holds true? And then based on what was factual or whatever, whatever it was, like we wanted to do our due diligence to check and also see. I also like even during that process, it was let's determine, because these people are just talking. They're just kind of free flowing with information. Let's see what they have first, and let's just see let's just show their hand, and then it kind of puts you in the upper hand. I mean, is that like a tactic or something that you would use?
Yeah. So I kind of feel like you're in my strategy brain, and I don't know, I don't know how I feel about that. See, but yes, I mean there is a piece where. Okay. And the reason, so.
Come on. This is to be honest.
Let me lean in. Okay. Because here's the thing. When those type of things happen, you have to decide what level of accountability you're willing to take. Because if you come to the table and you say, these things may be true, but I'm not willing to own any of it, there's nothing your publicist can do for you. You have to be able to come to a place of honesty within yourself to be able to say, you know what, these things may or may not be true, but even if there's even a hint, I need to address that. And then you have to be able to be mature enough to craft a response that says that, right? And you strike the right tone with that. But it comes down to making sure that you are willing to accept the responsibility that you have taken on as a public figure. You do have a responsibility to your audience. And so with that, you have to look and say, okay, how much of this am I willing to own? If it's even 25% of that thing, then it requires some sort of management.
Yeah. And I remember even when people were coming after us and stuff like that, I was doing an interview, doing an interview. I was doing an interview, and I remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, even if, because I am a public figure, even if I don't feel as though I did anything wrong, I still feel an obligation for the people who felt as if they were wrong. You know what I mean? And so it was like, well, I felt like in that moment, if an apology was necessary, then I would provide it. Is that the sense that you're saying as a public figure, that you have to, like, sometimes you gotta eat crow, and you have to be able to just own up and take responsibility for things?
So I would say, if as a public figure, if you are aware of your social responsibility, then at that point, you would need to take ownership and be able to either mitigate or apologize. But you do need to take some sort of action, because the inaction of a thing allows things to fester. So you have to take some sort of position. So either you're going to take the position of, like you say, an apology, or you're going to come to the table and say, these things happened, but this is what we're going to do to move forward. Right. The public appreciates when you're able to say, I understand. What they don't like, though, is a fake apology. So if you're saying, I understand, but I'm really not sorry. I'm sorry for how that made you feel, versus I'm sorry for my actions and how that affected you, and this is what I'm going to do to be able to make sure that doesn't happen again. Right. Those two things are two very different statements. And I think public figures somehow miss that. They're leaving behind the humanity of the people that trusted them. The people that follow you on social media, the people that buy your merchandise, the people that subscribe to what it is that you believe in, you owe them enough to be able to say, hey, this is what happened, and this is what I can do to prevent that from going forward. And I apologize that your feelings were hurt in the process. That in and of itself is enough. Yeah. Anything above and beyond that, I think, goes into personal. And that's kind of where we go back to that separation, right? Because it's okay to deal with the public figure, but when you begin to attack the person, that's when I believe you're going a little too far. Right.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I remember having conversations and stuff, and just being like, this public figure stuff, I ain't signed up for this. I remember saying that to you at one point. I was like, I ain't signed up for this.
You did.
You said, no, but you did.
No, but you did.
You did. You did. You signed up for it.
I did say that. I did say that.
And I was
yes,
like, hold
you're
on,
right.
hold up now. Hold up
You're
now.
right, I did.
You was like, yeah, no.
Well, because it's about ownership and accountability, right? And so you did sign up for it. And sometimes things are not what you would like them to be, but that doesn't mean we get to run away. It doesn't mean we get to, not take ownership of how those things are being managed. And that's really all it was. It wasn't, the biggest thing is that the attack never feels good.
Right.
And then that's where you come in and you have to care for the person. Because if you recall, that was at the onset. How do we care for the person? We'll get to the statement. We'll get to all of that. But how do we deal with the person? Because whatever we say, we want that to be said with authenticity.
Right. We
don't want to get out there and just say something just to say it, right? And the only way for you to do that is to really kind of, and that's why I like to do, 24-48, give it 24-48 before we do anything. How is that
person doing first?
How is the person doing? Yeah. And I think sometimes the public misses that. Mm-hmm. They only see the figure piece of it. They don't necessarily see that there's a person behind that public figure. And I think that takes the right people on your team to be able to communicate that publicly.
Wow. So for those individuals who are out there who say, I don't know if I need public relations help. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I need it, because in my head, public relations was always, it wasn't necessarily mitigating certain issues out in the public. It was public relations was making sure that we got advertisements on the billboards going down the highway.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I thought public relations was that. I thought they was like, they help you book shows with Oprah and stuff. So when I looked for a PR, I was like, am I going to be on Oprah?
Yeah, no.
That's what I thought. Like, put me on Montel Williams. That's what I thought. I thought that's what PR did. Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse Raphael. but that ain't what it was. So for those individuals who are out there, what truly is PR? Going back to the beginning, what truly, what is it truly? And then also, why in the world do they need it?
So public relations is the management of your brand and the membership of the media. So how do they see you publicly, and how can you continue to earn their trust? That is really the role of a public relations firm or agency, is to figure out how to make sure that you're showing up in your particular area of expertise in ways that make sense for your brand, but also protect the character and the integrity and the person behind the brand. And so we'll outsource and look for other brands that make sense. We'll facilitate partnerships. Press is a lot of it. Yes, we do a ton of interviews and placements and things, but a lot of stuff now within the PR field is kind of hybrid. So again, we do a lot of cross promo. Social media is really important. Sales, marketing, advertising. It used to be that public relations and sales and marketing were completely different lanes. Now things are kind of blurred. And a lot of public relations agencies do also handle influencer placement, or they will also handle the brand management piece of it, the social media piece of it, the advertising, sales, marketing piece of it. So a lot of firms are kind of doing a little bit of that. Innovations of Excellence does do the hybrid method. We actually prefer that because it allows us to get a good handle and be able to mitigate and be proactive about how we can communicate that person's brand or business to the world.
And with Innovations of Excellence, I'm confident you work with a range.
We do.
of different individuals. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you want to care politicians?
Yes, politicians, public figures, authors, brands, nonprofits. We do a lot of work in the community. Mm-hmm. So a large part of what we do are brands or businesses that impact the community in a specific way. And so whatever that looks like for you, however you show up in the world, but how are you making a difference? Those are the ones that we love to work with. And
for those individuals, how would they be able to reach out to you?
So they can go on the website, innovationsofexcellence.com. I'm getting away from social media responses because the DMs and things are kind of getting a little hard to manage.
Well,
so
there you go. See, they up in the DMs. That's what that's what social media. They're supposed to go in the
well,
DMs.
they do, yeah, and it works because I do a lot of that as well. But they can definitely reach out on the website, and we would love to be able to have conversations. But really, it's this. Whenever someone brings me on, the very first thing that I want to know is how are you showing up, and what can I do to assist you with that?
Wow.
It's really not, one-stop shop. It's really not cookie cutter at all. Every experience is tailored to the client. I work with a lot of public figures, a lot of people who have a lot of responsibility. And so my job is to think strategically for them.
Wow. Your job is to think strategically for them. I love that. Because as a leader, as a public figure, all that kind of stuff, I definitely think that is a blind spot. And I don't think that we think that, or that I don't say we don't think that, but I don't think we know that, or we are willing to admit that we have these blind spots. Yeah. There's just things we can't see because you're busy in the mix of what you're doing, and you don't realize the entire time, like you're busy doing this, but you're not focused on what's happening over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the work you do is absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I support, we endorse you the entire way. And I have grown just by our conversations on how to really relate with the public, because I had that kind of mindset that, shoo you away, forget you, be gone. And you like, Cornelius, you can't
do that, sir. No, you can't.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
Is that how that's how it sounded?
Yeah, that's how you say. You was like, no.
Yeah, that is true.
No, I'm gonna do this. No.
Okay, but I will get it to. No, we will get it together though. Now that's for sure. So anybody that's reaching out, please understand. Okay, we're gonna get it.
Yeah, she gonna get it together. Oh, don't worry about it. She'll get it together. And I love your. I think the best thing I love is that your use of strategy.
Thank you.
You're very strategic, and I can respect that. I can honor that.
Thank you so much. I
really respect that.
I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. Well, y'all, I appreciate y'all for being with us. Again, this is To Be Honest. Make sure you share this with your family, your friends, and also not only that, but share it with an influencer that you know. That person is out there that's trying to hit it big, make it big, and they don't realize that with big influence comes some big problems. You never know when those problems will come. And I mean, we got stuff happening all the time.
All the time.
And you don't know when you'll find yourself embroiled in something, and just to have that team with you to be able to walk you through whatever you're going through is so important, to just know that you are not alone. And so the first stop that y'all go to is Innovations of Excellence. Make sure that y'all get in touch with Porscha. Porscha, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was amazing.
You're welcome.
This was so good. Such a good vibe in here.
Well, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. As y'all know, Introduces. We out.